He separates. He's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Florida State. Warwick got up third down.
Winky looking Winky. Wants to throw the knockout punch to Warwick. Warwick open. Touchdown. He did a touchdown. He did catch it. Touchdown, Florida State. Oh, Peter Warwick, how'd you do that?
Herman Whitfield to the left side. A hole to the 30. Herman Whitfield to the 30, to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, FSU. Herman Whitfield, a 100-yard touchdown.
Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Throws the pass on the other.
It's caught. It's caught. It's caught.
For the end zone battle, Coleman, touchdown.
We're doing it for everybody. We're doing it big all over the country, all over the world, and I'm proud. I'm proud to say I'm a Florida State Seminole.
The Garnet and Old Show, no inside info, no contacts, no problem. I'm Ryan. That's Vince. Vince, how are you today, sir?
Feeling a little under the weather, but I am ready to talk about all this. It's been a couple days since we've been together, Ryan. And here we are. It's been a lot going on today, I'll tell you that. So I'm checking my phone constantly to see what's going on.
Yeah, speaking of a lot going on, breaking news here in the last hour, and that is Adam Fuller has earned himself an extension, likely to keep other teams from looking into his services, but the deal is a raise for him for sure, and I think it's going to be a good thing. It's a 3-year contract.
Yeah,
I'm happy that we re-signed him. It's
a 3-year extension, and if you think about all of the stuff that's been going on over the last 3 years or so, and people were wondering whether Adam Fuller is the right guy, and all this Adam Fuller hate and all of that, and which is comical just because, think about the roster we had 2-3 years ago. You can only do so much with what you've got. Now you're starting to see the right type of bodies show up, and you can see what can happen. So I appreciate the fact that it's not the fans that make these decisions, because they often are very, hostile and volatile. So, you watch that game. I watched that game. There was a whole lot of nothing being done by one of the better offenses in the country.
Yeah. It still wasn't enough, though, was it?
It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough because games don't matter, Ryan.
That games don't matter. Let's get right into it, Vince. This is the first conversation we've had since live streaming what we thought would be FSU's announcement into the college football playoff, which, by the way, over 2,000 views on YouTube and something crazy like 60 comments. And then my favorite part is someone tagged the timestamp of me throwing my headphone down saying F when we saw that it was Alabama getting in.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Thanks for all of you that streamed along with that very painful video. But Vince,
we did that to ourselves.
Yeah. We've both had a week to process this, and I think we're on the same page. I'm more upset the more I've learned.
Yeah. If you're on social media at all, you just know that time does not heal all wounds. It's not what happens. It's not how the world works. And somebody had tweeted something out about the reason why everybody's still upset is because deep down in your gut, you know that what happened was not equitable. Like there was, I don't want to say nefarious. Nefarious is probably the wrong word, but it was premeditated.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And you can go back and here's the thing. And but this particular headline, we're supposed to be talking about the game, right? We're going to be talking about the game.
Yeah, but
you're going right to the nastiness.
To overshadow.
Yeah. So, but if you go back and you look at the timeline and see how things progressed, the talking heads and the committee were telling us way before Jordan got hurt that what they were going to do is what they were going to do.
Yeah, they said on game day.
And
then listen, let's add it up, Vince. I mean, listen, the defense played amazing in that game, showed up huge. Toa Philly had an amazing game, but it really is, I feel like, overshadowed. And I want to get into the top topic du jour first, and we can get in some post game thoughts.
I wanted to start with some positivity, and you're going right to
I'm
the.
feeling anger. I need to get it off my chest.
All right, let's do it.
Let's talk about the things that have come out since that has happened. The college football committee chair, his brother, is a bigwig at ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Feinbaum goes, which, by the way, Paul Feinbaum, when he says things and he's like bantering around ideas, it's because he's talked to people and that's actually what they said, but he can't say that they said that. So he talks in generalities when he's saying that, hey, listen, Florida State didn't do themselves any favors when they announced that they were upset with the ACC and with their place. And I think some people on that committee, who knows, may have taken offense to some of the things that Florida State did at the beginning of the season when they were talking about being unhappy with the ACC, and that may have affected their decision. You have Kurt Herbstreit going on and on and on about, hey, get over it, Florida State fans. It's not a diss on you. The biggest talking point, Vince, it's a load of nonsense, is that, hey, it's no disrespect to Florida State. It's still a great season. Well, no, you left us out of the playoff. That's the ultimate disrespect.
And here's the thing too. And then they back all this up with like selfie videos of boohoo crying about how bad they feel for us. Man, no, that's not the way this works.
Yeah.
Florida State, when they announced that they might have to find another place to hang their hat, was not saying Florida State's too good for this conference. That's what they keep referring to it. Well, Florida State is saying and continues to say is that the ACC does not have an equitable deal, and the ACC does not have any power at all for the things that matter. We saw it play out. We saw the college football pageant committee chairman, Corrigan, who is the athletic director of NC State, let this all go down. We've got a former head coach from an ACC school on the committee, on the pageant committee, just letting it go down. We've got the actual media partner, the ACC's media partner, and partner is a catchy word, right? Our partner basically allowing the SEC, the head of the SEC, I can't remember the term. What is it? Commissioner. Prattle on for minutes and minutes and minutes about how one of these things is not like the other, and an SEC champion not being in the pageant isn't the real world.
Yeah.
They let that happen. And if you're not angry about that, if you're not frustrated by that, if you're just going to let these things, what Florida State is basically saying, it has been saying for over a year now, is that the ACC is a second-rate conference that does not have any clout, and there is no way that a team that cares about athletics can survive, that cares about athletics at the highest level, can survive in that league. And we just saw it happen. And, if you want to pull up that next brand or that next banner that I have there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You've seen that horror movie. The calls coming from inside the house. The ACC did nothing. They did nothing. And you could say, well, they couldn't do anything anyway. That's probably true. But have you heard anything from anybody within the conference of any substance? Have any coaches come out and deadpan this? No.
Gus Malzahn.
He's not in the conference.
No, I'm just talking. I do appreciate some others.
Well, because, they may have, and I have a strong belief, and I have been hearing some things too, and I know you have too, Ryan.
Yeah.
I've been hearing things that if there is any possible good that come out of what happened to the Noles,
yeah,
it's that it's on. I mean, there's a ton of bad blood.
Yeah.
Not just with ESPN.
Vince, while we're discussing this, comment section, give us your number one reason, I don't care if it's tinfoil hat, not tinfoil hat, why you believe Florida State was left out of the playoffs. I want to hear from you guys. So build up those responses.
We got a bunch of comments. We got to probably throw some up there.
We will, yeah. But I want to hear add additional ones for what you guys believe is the reason Florida State was left out. But I do want to call out a couple things. Hey, that name looks familiar.
Yeah.
His own wife. It's completely personal. Absolutely. I will say that I think this does hurt other ACC schools. So it's odd that some of the other coaches are not getting involved in a positive way. But here's the thing, why they aren't. The ACC is dead. It's a dead man walking. And they know it's about to blow up. So when it does, why are they going to protect Florida State when Florida State's on their way out? That's the thing here. And when you have the college football chair, his brother being head of production, essentially at ESPN, vice president of production, and you're going to try to convince me, and Kurt Herbstreit says this with a smile, a smirk on his face, that we don't know who the playoffs are, who's in the playoff until the show. But Vince, all right, behind him, right? Every single week that the rankings were in order of operation, the helmets, Florida State was 4. All of a sudden, the set changes before they announce who the 4th team is, and Florida State's 5, and they start the show, and the whole show leading up until the announcement was that, don't be surprised if Alabama's 4. Don't be surprised. I think Alabama should be 4. You're going to tell me the chair of the College Football Playoff Committee didn't text his brother and say, hey, here's what it's going to be, and they talk to the the host of the show? Of course they do. It's a production. It's for views. It's for controversy. So all those guys, in my opinion, Vince, to put it very nicely, can suck it.
They can. And we can pretend, I said on another show I was on earlier this week, there has been no legitimate college football national championship ever.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. So as a Nole, I'm very proud of the 3 championships that we have. I am, and I talk about them all the time. I was at 2 of them.
Yeah.
Right. But there has been because it hasn't been played out on the field the way every other sport happens. Right. This is no different. So let's just call it what it is. It's an invitational tournament. And the teams got invited that they thought would bring the best ratings. And in the meantime, they basically double middle fingered the conference that they don't give a damn about. So, of course, Florida State wants to get out. And to be honest with you, I have no love lost for any other, whatever league we get into, Ryan. Okay. And we can talk more about that here in a moment. Whatever league Florida State ends up in, you are never going to see me flag waving. It's just never going to happen.
Not at all, Vince. And listen, what's even more disgusting, because I know the trend and topic has been, well, hey, next year. Well, guys, this year we were undefeated. So how often has an undefeated season happened in Florida State history? Not very often. And we missed an opportunity. Who knows? Vince, we could go the next 30 years without an undefeated season. We don't know. You don't know in college football. So people who are like, well, FSU will get it next year. Well, hold on. Look at all but one of the top 12. They're all future SEC schools that are already in the SEC or are going to be joining next year, or they're Big Ten teams or future Big Ten teams.
That's right. Of the top 12, the only one that's not is Florida State. We're the fly in the ointment every time. And, Florida State's not afraid to bark about it. Yeah. And if people get their feelings hurt about it, I don't care. The writing's on the wall. When people show you who they are, you have to believe them.
Yeah.
They did it, and they did it on national TV week after week. And they basically told us from the get-go that it didn't matter what Florida State was going to do. It wasn't going to be good enough.
Yeah.
The problem with that is, or there's a lot of problems with it, but one of the things that really cuts me to the core, aside from being a fan, right, is that here's a coaching staff, and here's a bunch of players that decided not to go pro, to come back.
Yeah.
and put together a run because they believed they could do it.
They
And
believed that the goal
and they
was to
did
get
do
to a
it.
national championship.
And they did do it. And up until the year 2023, any Power 5 undefeated champion that had gotten to this point was in the playoff, the pageant. And this is the year that they're not. It doesn't sit well, man. And that's why
all of a sudden it's about the best teams. You're telling me Cincinnati was the best team a couple years ago?
Yeah. No. Were you going to save us? You're going to save us from beat downs in the playoff? Nobody wants to see that. I'll tell you one thing nobody wants to see. Nobody wants to see this defense.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that. You can't and we're fighting an uphill battle because of the league that we're in and because of the historic the history of the league itself and how they didn't care about football. Florida State, and to a much more recent degree, Clemson, has been trying to tell this league for decades that they're hanging their hat on the wrong rack.
Yeah. And it's time. Listen, it honestly is time. It was never about the best 4 teams. It's always been about the most deserving 4 teams until they needed this to happen for getting the SEC and Big Ten or future SEC teams on the forefront. And all of a sudden, it's about the best 4 teams, which is completely subjective. Who knows who the best 4 teams are? Vince, when Boise State played Oklahoma, did you think Boise State was the best team in that game?
No.
When Michigan, how about when Ohio State played Florida in the national championship? I thought Ohio State was going to kill them. So who cares what people think is going to happen? The games have to happen. It's so annoying.
The games have to happen. There's no possible way that a backup quarterback could win a national title. That could never happen.
No, absolutely. Yeah,
that could never happen.
It's never happened, right? Of course, Cardale Jones is at the 3rd string. It has never happened. And by the way, everyone's like, well, look how terrible the quarterback looked against Louisville. It's our 3rd string. And by the way, in the last 2 games without Jordan Travis, the quarterback's numbers were better than A.J. McCarron's numbers were with Alabama when they won the national championship.
Greg McElroy.
McElroy, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, there's overwhelming evidence. It's just overwhelming. And it frustrates me when I see it all the time because everybody's reposting it, right? It's overwhelming. The college football committee, the invitational committee, did not care to do what they had been doing for the last 10 years. They wanted, and they were directed, in my opinion, to put in the SEC champion.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. If they believed Alabama was one of the best 4 teams, that's fine. If that's what they actually believe. But no one knows who the best teams are. No one knows who the best teams are until the games get played. That's what sports is. That's how, when the time is out and you look up to the scoreboard and you see one number and another number, the number that's the higher number, that's the better team. It's unfathomable to me on that day, unfathomable to me that people that are former athletes see it anything other than that.
Well, to their credit, a lot of them are seeing it. Robert Griffin III, which I really appreciate his very strong takes on the matter. And a bunch of other players, Booger McFarland going all in on it. But it really comes down to what Caden's dad say. Thanks for commenting, Caden's dad. Oregon was 10-point favorite over Washington in the championship Saturday game. Exactly right. And guess what? Oregon didn't win the game. They sure didn't.
No.
So you never know. Now, Vince, I do want to get into what this means for Florida State. First of all, one thing that's really sad, and this is the part that I got emotional about, not just mad, but just like from a sadness standpoint. Generally, when you're headed into a game, the players on that team that year know it's going to be their final game together, and they can go in and have one more moment together, and they can have that crescendo, whether it's a win or a loss. They know, hey, we're ride or die one more time. So when they won the ACC championship game, none of them thought that that was their final game. They all thought they were going to the playoffs, and all of them would have played in the playoffs because of getting screwed. Now you have multiple players who are like, well, I'm not going to, if it's not the playoffs, I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to go NFL draft. We already have Johnny Wilson, making that announcement. I'm sure many, many others will follow. And so now those players did not get a chance to know that they were heading into the last game that they were going to play with them and their teammates. And that is what really got me emotional and kind of feeling pretty sad for a good 24, 48 hours. I was feeling really bad for the team and feeling bad for Jordan Travis's comment about, I wish I had broke my leg sooner. So, but Jordan, it wouldn't have mattered. The fix was in.
Yeah, the fix was in. That's absolutely right. And another reason you know why the fix was in, look at the lackey they sent to Florida State to get the reaction.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Yeah.
You have to open your eyes.
I do want to answer Gabby's question. Ryan, do you think we should decline the bowl invite? I don't. Simply because Florida State does get a substantial payout to play in these bowl games, and the players, get some stuff too out of it. But and we get playing time for younger players because of all those players that are going to announce that they're not participating. You get experience for younger players. So I always looked at bowl games as almost like an extra
intercamp,
another pre-camp type situation. So for Mike Norvell, it's a chance to get some guys on the field that haven't been on the field. And Florida State does make money off of it. So they're going to play. They're not going to turn down the Orange Bowl invitation. And listen, if you beat Georgia, it does, even if some of the players on both sides are out, that'll be a 14-0 season. That's something. It's not what we wanted. It's not what we hoped for from making it to a title game or semifinal or national championship events. 14-0 is a higher number than 13-0.
Yeah, it is. And, when games get played, they matter. And, whoever wins that game, you can say that, if Florida State wins, what that basically means is Florida State's depleted roster beated Georgia's depleted roster.
Yeah,
that's all that means.
I do want to answer Kirk Tony here. He says basically we need, the big stars, Johnny Wilson, Keon, Trey Benson, Jervers, to be competitive against Georgia. I don't think that's the case because you're going to have similar type level players from Georgia not playing. So yeah. It would only be that we need all those players if Georgia was starting all of their starting players against us. I think it'll be a pretty even game, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look outside the Garnet and Gold world. Like, social media is an echo chamber for things that we love, right? So I'm getting all the Florida State stuff. I'm getting who's going to pro, who's going to the poor. That's all I'm getting. But you got to understand, every school has got their people. Do you think Brock Bowers wants to play in this game?
Yeah, no.
No, he's not playing in this game.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I mean, why? I mean, he's going to the league. Why risk your career in, unfortunately, a game that doesn't matter when you look at it in context of what their ultimate goal was that got robbed of them?
Yeah. Vince, what is your take on, and I'm not at all insinuating that this would be the case in the long run, but what is your take on some of the players that we expect to not play and to be in the draft and all that have not yet announced? What's your take on that?
I mean, it's tough to know. I mean, you saw the other day that Pat Payton put his name in the portal or tweeted out that he was going to put his name.
I mean more like the people leaving for the draft or playing in the bowl game. Like, we haven't heard anything from Jared Verse yet. We haven't heard anything from Keon Coleman yet. Like, what's the timing hold up, do you think?
I mean, their life is different than ours, right? We as fans, we as people that follow the program, we want to know right away what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
But they're probably talking to their families, enjoying some time off. There's no doubt, trying to process through, what happened to them, which was a major screw job. that stuff's going to come out on its own timeline, and we're all going to be waiting. There's no doubt, but you got to understand that the way they process through this stuff is different than us as fans.
Yeah, I do want to say, Philip, who comments in, please forgive my rage commenting. Thank you for the therapy. We are all enraged. This is here's what's great. Other teams who have been left out of the playoffs in the past because they felt like they were the better team, but it was 2 one-loss teams and they didn't get picked or whatever it was. Or Baylor when they got left out because they didn't play in a conference championship, which was no fault of their own. It was the conference's fault for not skip. But
yeah,
those kind of things, you're met. Those fans are mad, but then quickly get over it and life goes on. Because of the way this went down and because so many people inside and outside of Florida State believe that this was a true screw job, it's not going away. That's why you see politicians getting involved. That's why you see commentators still bringing it up and talking about it. It's because, and it will continue through the playoff season, Vince. It's going to, when those games are happening, the playoffs, when our game's happening, they're going to say, hypothetically, let's say Florida State beats Georgia. You don't think in the semifinals they're going to say, Florida State actually looked pretty good against Georgia. Maybe I wonder if we made the right call here, especially if one of the 4 gets blown out, right? Those conversations are going to continue. Now, the bigger point here is, Vince, before we get in the portal stuff, what's next for Florida State?
No, we have way more to talk about here.
For what's next for Florida State is get the hell up out of here.
Yeah, that's going to happen, and it's going to happen, sooner rather than later. And we've been saying that for a while now. And I, speaking with the family here a few days ago, because of the newness of the hurt.
Yeah,
it was like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? I was of the opinion that if it is going to happen, if they are going to announce it this year, what I mean by that is this school year, that it would probably happen after the tournament, the basketball tournament. But after what went down this past weekend, I'm not so sure we're going to be waiting too much longer. There's a lot of bad blood that happened, and the bad blood is aimed at the media partner, our media partner that basically screwed us, who is deeply in bed with a conference that screwed us. So even if you've got some old guard people around Florida State that have been wanting to get into the SEC, for however long, because the talking points. Well, Florida State's in the South. Florida State should be in a Southern conference. And it just makes more sense for, regionally for Florida State and the travel and blah, and all this stuff that is tied to like things that don't matter.
Yeah.
You're going to get a major shift, I believe, at this point, if it hasn't already happened, where, what? You don't think that if this played out and Florida State got into the SEC, that they're not going to look down their nose at us even after we're in the league?
Right.
Look what they did to Texas A&M.
Yeah. They were the bastard child.
Then they brought in Texas. Oh, man.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I've been saying this from the beginning. I prefer the Big Ten.
I'm on your side, by the way, now.
I think that Florida State was and has been dealing with the Big Ten, hoping that maybe the SEC would see that as a threat. But at this point, why would you want to get in bed with someone that screwed you in that way?
Hey, now.
No pun intended.
Yeah. And yeah, Gabby's got it correct. Hashtag fund the exit. And Vince, you have started to fund the exit. Vince is now part and donated to the Battle's End, which all
I'd been waiting. Well. I shouldn't have waited, but I'd been waiting a little while to figure out, when the right time would be to do it. But yeah, so if you haven't already done so, if you're looking for a way to help get Florida State and make Florida State undeniable, where you cannot deny So something like this will never happen again. Unfortunately, it happened because of money.
Yeah.
And the only way it's not going to happen again is because of money.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, but that is the end all beat all fact. So whatever way, if you can contribute, then you should. And in whatever way you can. Battle's End, Rising Spear, Seminole Boosters, funding the Chiefs. I mean, all of it is money. So whatever you can do, I recommend you do it because we have a hard time. We have a hard time. People have a hard time feeling sorry for what happened, but if people aren't ready to take the next step,
Right.
And I'm not saying that everybody has the funds to be able to do it, because I get that. But maybe there are some other ways that you can get involved. We have to get out of this league, and I heard some things today that give me a little bit of pep, thinking that we are closer to that.
Yep.
A lot closer to that announcement than we would have been had this not happened.
Yeah, there's definitely smoke. I will tell you guys that, listen, I'm sure all follow the same accounts. We all see the same posts. We all see the same eyeball tweets. We all see the same random GIFs from rant that seem to indicate certain things.
No inside info.
What I can tell you is that we are going to leave the ACC. This screw job has expedited that process. And if you know the people in charge of making that decision or are involved in announcing that the decision, when we do announce it, it'll probably be made with much gusto, not just a press release. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a press conference called, or a Board of Regents meeting that's live streamed, something like that, where it's out in the open. Hey, this is our intention to leave the ACC. And when it does happen, we're going to report on it live on Garnet and Old. And man, what a glorious, glorious day it will be. But Vince, are you ready to talk about the portal?
Not yet.
Move on?
Not yet.
You got more anger. Vince has got a lot of problems with you people.
I spent 2 hours on a show the other night, and I'm sorry. One of the segments of the show was someone that was in the chat had been talking about the best team versus the deserving team and whatever. So we brought that person on the show, and so he and I were talking back and forth about it. And this is the ultimate retort. So if you guys are ever involved in any kind of back and forth about this, the ultimate retort is, how do you determine who the best team is? That's all you have to say.
Yeah.
So you don't entertain the nonsense. This is what I've been telling people. Don't entertain the nonsense. Because there's no retort for that. Because the only answer is that, well, you have to play each other. Thank you very much. End of story. Game over. Game, set, match, done.
Anything else that they give as an answer is subjective.
It's all subjective. Let's talk about money real quick. How much money do you think was lost to Florida State, the economics of around Florida State in terms of Tallahassee, merchandising, the state of Florida in general? How much money do you think was lost by them not being able to go to the playoff?
Yeah, millions.
Maybe hundreds of millions.
Yeah. Do you remember, Vince? I know, actually, I know that you remember. Following the 2013 national championship, just around Tallahassee, all of a sudden new businesses started to open much quicker. Restaurants, it was a boom time. For those of you who lived in Tallahassee, like I did at that time, before 2013 and after 2013, you saw an absolute boom of new businesses, new things opening, new experiences. And that's what a national championship, a Super Bowl, whatever, a Stanley Cup, it helps not only the school and excites the fans, but it helps the community. And that's why, Vince, politicians are getting involved, because this affects the state of Florida. This, by the way, I appreciate Miami and Florida fans' taxpayer money going towards these potential lawsuits coming. which I hope they do get filed. Now, it won't change anything. We're not magically going to be in the playoff. It doesn't repair, but what it can do is if there was anything shady happening when they do a records request and things like that, public case. Hey, you guys, if they can require Donald Trump to turn in his stuff, that they can require all the committee members to turn in their records and text messages and emails. And if there is anything in which they're saying, hey, listen, the SEC is more deserving, we need to get the SEC, in, it's going to be brought to light. And if I'm them, I promise you, Vince, that chair, that committee, they thought that this would be controversial, but they probably thought it would blow over. And it's not.
No, and one of the reasons it's not blowing over is because of how ridiculous it is, right? Like we said at the beginning of the show, the reason why everybody's waking up and not moving on through the stages of grief is because deep down, that what occurred was untenable. Like it cannot lie. It has to be, transparency has to happen. Now, the politicians, sometimes they just spout out words and nothing ever happens from it. I hope that's not the case, but you have to prepare yourself that maybe that's what's going on with that too. But at the very least, imagine if any lawyer that Florida State would get involved with this, if they were able to maybe not even prove beyond the shadow of a doubt, but have enough evidence behind the fact that your own media partner damaged your brand and your financial viability, at that point, that media partner may be willing to go up and say, you know what? We don't need all this getting out. Let's come to an agreement on how you can vacate the premises.
Yeah, and that would be ideal.
And then at that point, that number starts coming down. What happened on Sunday was financially damaging to the university.
Yeah.
It was financially damaging, and it had nothing to do with anything other than backdoor agreements and shilling for the conference that that ESPN is in bed with. That's all that happened. If they can prove that, or even get to the point where they're probably going to prove it, I think that's where this momentum is coming from.
Gabby writes in, which all of you can write in. Vince and Ryan, did you expect Jordan to be a Heisman finalist after how much they talked about Jordan being our whole team? Post-injury, I know a lot of people were talking about this, but the second he got injured with 2 games remaining, I knew he wouldn't be a finalist just because there's other players that had 12 full games worth of stats and everything. I'm honestly not even convinced that even if he had finished the year based on his stat line alone, that he would have been invited. He may have, but the week he got injured, like before the injury, he was, I think, listed as 6 in ESPN's like projected Heisman. And that's because Florida State had so many weapons that it wasn't like one guy just putting up a ton of yards. We were winning in different ways. So
I know the
Heisman thing doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I know the Jordan thing frustrates people I know the Heisman thing frustrates people because it's on the heels of this other thing, but they're two separate things. It's just ironic and comical to a degree that someone could be the reason why a team doesn't make a playoff.
Yeah.
And yet he's not one of the most valuable people. Yeah. But those are two different things.
Sure. And to be fair, and this is me as a huge Jordan Travis fan, individual stat line wise, he had a better year last year.
He did.
So and that's because they had to run him. And let's be frank, he can throw, of course. And I think he's pretty good throw over the football. But what makes him special and a Heisman finalist is his legs. And they had to use him last year. So he used his legs a lot more last year. This year, he didn't have to. So they didn't until he got injured. They didn't. Thus, the electricity, the thing that gave Johnny Manziel the Heisman Trophy, that fun explosiveness, it's not as exciting as a brand and doesn't necessarily make it as attractive for an individual Heisman finalist. Vince, is there anything else you want to say about this before we move on to the portal? Because we're running pretty long here.
Yeah. I would just say, as you're in and around social media, there are going to be people that frustrate you. Find opportune ways to continue it's not really a fight, but continue uncovering things, and be careful not to entertain fools. There's a lot of them out there.
Vince, we might just have to run this ticker forever now on our the Garnet old show.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of, at some point, probably, ESPN is going to be showing up on campus.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for that game day.
People, you do not. I'm Italian. I can hold a grudge now.
Yeah.
It's not right. What happened was not right. And don't think about it in terms of yourself, in terms of like selfishly not right. Think about it in terms of that team. Think about it in terms of, the marching Chiefs who had to watch that all go down on a bus together, right?
Yeah.
That's what you got to think about. You think about others, and that will give you the fire you need when the 4-letter network shows up on campus again.
Vince, what's the Italian word for the situation given you? It's given me
agita.
Agita, yeah, I knew that term.
Heartburn, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's switch gears. Let's go to the portal.
Yeah. The portal is crazy. The portal is it's really out of control.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not anything that wasn't expected. Here's how it's different this year.
Yeah.
Had Florida State been invited to the Invitational, and that's what I'll forever call it now, or the pageant. Had they been invited, you wouldn't have been hearing so much about Florida State people.
Yeah.
Because they would have had another goal in mind.
Yeah.
But because what happened, you got to think about how this all went down. That got announced. All the coaches immediately were out recruiting. They're on the road recruiting.
Yeah. Portal and high school people.
So that team is pretty much not going to say by themselves, but they don't have the structure of practices and things going on.
Not yet. Bowl practices
right now. Right.
Yeah.
So you would have heard about Florida State people in the portal. Absolutely, you would have.
Right.
But you would have heard about it later.
Yeah.
So
to be clear, Vince, some of the players that you hear about say they intend to do so, and then they delete the tweet.
Sure. Pat Payton did that, and I'm not saying he's going to stay or leave.
Yeah.
But sometimes, he's looking for a bigger NIL deal.
Yeah.
It's like, and in your heart, you can feel dirty about that, but that's the way it is.
Right.
Right. So, test the waters. It's like you or me finding out, what other kind of jobs are out there.
Right. Hey, listen, I think people get caught up as Florida State fans in feeling like, hey, it's only a bunch of Florida State guys are in the portal. There are hundreds,
thousands
of players. Yeah, no, is it in the thousands now?
Yeah, I think it's in the thousands at this point
of players in the portal. Most of the people who were, let's say, pretty good players that went in the portal, it's because they're looking for a bigger payday. But so are a bunch of other players also looking, and there's only so many spots. And all these collectives at any school only have so much money, and they learn the lesson from year one to not overspend because you don't want to piss off your own team and you want to make sure you have money for the future as well. So yeah, you could put your name in the portal. And a lot of these players you see, like I've seen a couple players, Vince, go from, hey, I intend to put my name in the portal, I am now officially in the portal. And then like the last 3 days be like, come get me, or I'm here. Or it's almost like, hey, is anyone?
I ain't hard to find.
I thought I was supposed to get phone calls here because a lot of players, hey, they're athletes. If you went to school with athletes in high school or in college, you know that they think very highly of their personal ability. That might even exceed what the facts are. So a lot of times, hey, they'll go in, test the waters. They don't hear what they say, and they said, "You know what? I've decided to stay."
What's interesting about that, though, is a school doesn't have to honor, if they decide to come out of the portal, the school doesn't have to honor the original scholarship with them.
If they're a good player, they will.
They will. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that is a risk
Yeah.
that the player takes. And that's why I think a lot of people will tweet something out to kind of ruffle some waters to see what kind of shakes free. But a lot of times, maybe they don't end up actually putting their name in the portal.
Yeah.
And you know, when Pat Payton put his name or tweeted his thing out, there were a lot of people on social media was like, pay the man his money, pay the man. And you know what? I am so glad fans don't run this stuff.
Yeah,
this is a business, people. This is a business.
We have, guys, there's only so much money, and you have a bunch of players that you want to keep.
And I don't know, obviously we don't know all the details, right?
Right.
But there was rumors out there that he was looking for, quarterback type money.
Yeah, you're a good
more
player.
more money than Jared Verse.
Yeah, and let's be frank, he's a good player. He's not a top 5 player in the country on the defensive side of the ball. He's a nice piece. He probably will get
and getting better.
Deal. He will get a handsome deal, and maybe next year, he comes out and hey, listen, if you become a Jared Verse, if Jared Verse was coming back for another year, he would get an insane amount of money. But there's not too many players like Jared Verse in that situation. Quarterbacks, they haven't made, right? Because if you're even mildly popular mildly decent quarterback, you're going to get a lot of money in the portal because teams need quarterbacks desperately. So they have an edge. All the other players, there's for every Pat Payton in the portal, there's hundreds of other Pat type players, like good contributors that were very good at their team and they're just looking to get paid, but it doesn't mean you're going to get it.
Yeah, and so he does that, and let's just say the number that we've heard is accurate. He was looking for $1 million, right?
I've heard 700K.
Okay, so whatever. So when you go, if you go and negotiate a raise, you're going to negotiate high? Absolutely, you are.
Yeah.
Right. So that I don't fault them for doing that. I mean, players should have been paid forever to some degree. I truly believe that. Now, right now, I don't like the system right now. It's just kind of a loosey-goosey Wild West, but that's what we have right now. So, but I tell you one thing, if there's one thing I know is that this coaching staff and the collectives that we have are going to do what's financially responsible to build the team correctly with the right culture. I know that for a fact because we've seen it. So all these people that are saying, pay the man, pay the pen, that's reactionary nonsense. And by the way, are you contributing? So it's easy to spend other people's money, right?
Sure is, yeah.
So anyway, Kirk says, why wouldn't any of these players want to play in the Orange Bowl against the number? Because that's not the way they see it.
Yeah.
That's not the way they see it.
They feel like they got screwed.
They got screwed.
And now they've turned since their ultimate goal of national championship is off the table, their new ultimate goal is NFL time. And you don't want to risk injury. You want to make sure you get signed over. That becomes you and your family's top concern.
Yeah.
So if you're not in the title, and you see this across all college football ever since this NIL and playoff situation happened, is if you're not in the playoff, this happens to every single team. And Vince, the last thing I want to say about the portal, it's my last take on it. If you believe the rumors, it sounds like we may have DJ Ungulangule join our team.
DJ Ukulele?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to figure out how to say his name. I think there's a great possibility he's gonna be someone that they pick up. I do think that's probably gonna happen. But I mean, you never know, right? Because and do we need a quarterback from the portal?
Don't need it, but you would.
We don't know. We don't know. And so, but you can't build your program on we don't know. You can't wait. You can't wait. It's unfortunate for a lot of reasons that Tate got hurt, not just because of, what happened with the Florida game and then whatever. It's not just that that's a problem. It's the fact that they didn't get another full game chance to see him progress.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, I think if he had come out guns a-blazing against Florida, putting up 400 yards and 4 touchdowns or something like that,
and then won the ACC championship game.
Yeah, you may not be looking for our quarterback, but you definitely were a little like, not so much with Brock Glenn yet. He's not ready. So what they're looking for right now to stay in that top tier program status is reload, not develop, not necessarily restart. Now, I don't think we would completely restart by going the other direction, but we would take a step back. Now, if you bring in a player like DJ, maybe you keep the band right on playing through next year. So,
we can be mad at the Gators for anything. I'll find a reason. We don't actually need a reason sometimes, but you can't. And Philip says the same thing. If you don't know if you need one, you need one.
Yeah, exactly.
The quarterback position is way too important, and we do have some great talent on the roster and coming in. We do, but this thing is constantly being built. The floor is constantly being raised. That's what this coaching staff does. They're constantly over recruiting and over portaling people.
Yeah.
That's the way the business is done.
Yeah.
So you cannot go backward. You cannot go backward.
And I did see someone in the comment mention they don't feel like DJ is a fit. Well, you just have to trust the coaching staff that if they brought him in, they see more in him than we saw it from him at Clemson. And make no mistake, he had a pretty good year at Oregon State.
He really did have a pretty good year.
Yeah.
And again, I just go back to, I trust this staff.
Yeah.
I trust them in their evaluation, not just of people's ability.
Yeah.
But in their ability to fit into the culture.
Yeah.
Above all other things, the culture, you can get a bunch of mercenaries that are top level, but that's not a program.
Right.
The culture is the escalator. The culture is the accelerator.
Yeah.
That's what they have to do. And that's why they can be very picky in the portal, because they've had such success.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
When high-level players are considering going in the portal, they are calling Florida State to see if there's any interest.
Yeah. Because we've proven that we develop people that come here from the portal. And listen, you put DJ with Tony Tokars and Mike Norvell. Hey, man, you never know. He could be a special player.
Cam Ward, somebody asked about Cam Ward. Cam Ward is not necessarily out of the picture yet.
I think right now there's a lot of, phone calls and what's the NIL situation look like. I think there's a lot of that going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
But Vince,
Battles
we do have a little recruiting news or potential news. Why don't you kick us off with a certain wide receiver from Ohio State?
Yeah, so Jeremiah Smith, who is the top player, depending on which ranking system you look, he's the top player in the country. Mm-hmm. He's considered to be a generational wide receiver. He actually just played his state championship game in Tallahassee this morning, mm-hmm. And they won, I believe. I believe they won.
Yeah.
And he's currently on his official visit. Florida State played the long game with him. And if you ask any recruiting experts out there, if you follow any of them, they'll tell you, and I'm not, but they'll tell you that months and months and months ago, it was like a pipe dream to think that this receiver would possibly come to Florida State.
Yeah, but we proved it after a 13-0 season.
Games got played. That's the moniker these days. Games got played. Florida State continues to climb, and Florida State was okay with, trying to figure out how to get him in for his last official visit. That's happening this weekend because signing day is coming up.
Yeah, and his signing, and if we kept our current recruits, that would put us locked at a top 5 class, which is awesome news.
Yeah, Philip says they won 58-0.
And this.
And his team won all playoff games. So there's a good chance. And I'm never going to, I was the one saying, if we win, we're in. Right.
Yeah.
So So locks don't exist, but there's a lot of confidence out there about him coming to Florida State.
There is. Vince, is there anything else you want to talk about in general before we wrap up? I know listen, all of you watching out there, first of all, if you like the show, and we've seen a ton of growth recently, but if you like the show, tell every single Florida State fan you know and you're friends with or family, man, subscribe to Garnet and Old, subscribe. It helps us so much keep this thing going. Every single year we went from doing just audio to now last year and this year video and live events. We want to do more live events. We want to do more production. We want to potentially add some people to the Garnet and Old podcast, our network, and do shows with us in the long run. So to do that, we need to continue to grow. We need to continue to get your support. So tell your friends, please, to subscribe to Garnet. We appreciate those who have been here. Comment section's been awesome tonight.
Yeah, and if you are listening and watching and whatever, and you haven't smashed the like button, subscribe, what is you doing?
What is he doing?
What is you doing? It helps us out a lot, and we appreciate it. Ryan and I spend a good amount of time trying to get things going here, and we enjoy it. That's the first and foremost.
That's why we started.
We enjoy it. That's why we started it. But we would love to have more people join the fray, and that only happens with you guys. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it allows us to get better guests, better production, better equipment, and do more live shows. That's what the likes and subscriptions allow us to do. So please keep following Garnet and Old and tell your friends. Vince, any closing words from you?
Send Chiefs all the damn time. That's the main one. And then don't be surprised if we hear some news sooner rather than later about conference stuff.
Eyeball emoji.
Yeah.
Well, Vince, it's been a pleasure. As always, we appreciate all of you joining us for the Garnet and Old Show live every Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Garnet and Old, no inside info, no contacts, no problem. Go Noles, join the battle's end.
Go Noles.